Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race. Joe Samaniego here, along with Adam Lemeries. We have Julia, Joshua, Jessica, all here for MotoGP F1, and of course Ben Schneider from Grid Encore joining us as well today. We have a lot of racing to talk about. Definitely, we're going to start getting into that. We encourage everyone to chat room to participate, and special thank you to Colin, Michelle, and Mark for keeping us on the air by investing in the Grid Network. You too can invest in the Grid Network by joining our Patreon monthly subscription or buy me a coffee, a one-time contribution. So we encourage everyone keep the Grid Network on the air. Share your comments. I already saw already Amber, one of our regulars, a little bit of a different time, usually on 12 p.m. Eastern, but later because of all the racing coverage that we're covering, especially you, Joshua, all over the place this weekend. And we're going to start off with Formula One.
That's right. I guess you could say roses are blue, violets are red. It's 2022, and Ferrari are on pole instead of Mercedes-AMG Petronas, which is what we've been so used to the last few years. But it was an eventful qualifying session, and Charles Leclerc led Ferrari to pole position, and it looked like they might even have a shot at a front row lockout. Max Verstappen just barely beat Carlos Sainz Jr. to the P2 starting spot. Sainz, of course, follows in P3, followed by the second Red Bull, Sergio Perez, in fourth. Mercedes, curiously, we knew they were probably going to struggle just a little bit compared to Ferrari and Red Bull. They are down in fifth with Lewis Hamilton and ninth with George Russell. So Jessica and Joshua, will go to you first here. Can Mercedes overcome this lack of qualifying pace and get up there and contend with Ferrari and Red Bull tomorrow?
Yes, they can, but Mercedes has complained practice about the car performance. It's also a challenge for Mercedes because they see Bottas with Alfa Romeo in the top 10, Ferrari above them and above Red Bull. Also has with a Ferrari engine with a great performance, and Mercedes will always handle different pressure to the rest because everyone expects them to be the fastest. They must to make important changes in the aerodynamics and study very well where they need to improve, starting with a strong revision seen in Hamilton's car. It's a challenge of something very different from what Mercedes is used to. They always battle with Red Bull. Now you have Ferrari, Red Bull, very close to Alfa Romeo with Valtteri Bottas and Haas. So I think they can battle this Sunday, but it's a very difficult job.
Who says we can't take pre-season testing seriously? Ferrari looked quick right from the get-go in Barcelona. Mercedes looked off the pace all throughout testing, and it's exactly what's happened. But then again, I've never been more surprised to see a qualifying session turn out the way it did. It was very refreshing indeed, and a lovely intro by you as well, Ben, with that one. I must admit, it's very nice to see Ferrari on pole for them. The first time since Monaco last year. No, Azerbaijan as well. Leclerc had pole, I believe, the following week. So I think I made a deal about that. But still, they've got pole. They've got a great opportunity to win the race tomorrow. And I genuinely think Leclerc could be the champion this year. I've put him down as my pre-season favourite to win the title. So I'm hoping I'm right. And it's the biggest tick. But I want to say as well, Mercedes, they have been not lying to us for once. And they are genuinely off the pace. That side pod design may be revolutionary, but it's problematic. The floor's got issues as well. I think the only reason Russell was so far back, starting, was he P9 on the grid, it's because he locked up down at turn one. Hamilton got a clean lap in. In terms of race pace, I don't think Ferrari is quite there yet with how quick they can handle their race pace. They're mainly a one-lap wonder at the moment. I'm looking forward to seeing it, but for the race, Red Bull are going to be up there. Mercedes are going to slowly drift in if they time their strategies right at the pit stops. So it's going to be a 3-horse race. It's even better. But I want to say a special well done to Megan, because when she came into the commentary box to do the watch-long commentary, she said, live on air as well, that she's going to have about 7 of the 10 teams are going to be in Q3, and Leclerc was going to take pole position. And that happened exactly. I don't know how she does it, but she got it bang on.
Well, I've got to say, if there's anybody that can overcome this kind of a deficit, it would have to be Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton. So we will just have to see what happens tomorrow. And it's a new car, a new era of Formula One. As I think a lot of us were predicting, the gaps have kind of closed between the top teams and the back markers. It looks very close all around in many respects. How about Valtteri Bottas bringing the Alfa Romeo home in 6th in qualifying, right behind his former teammate Lewis Hamilton, ahead of the car that he just departed, the second Mercedes driven by George Russell. However, going backwards, we had McLaren with some issues with their car. Lando Norris will be starting 13th behind the Haas of Mick Schumacher, the Alpine of Esteban Ocon. So Josh, we'll go to you first this time and then over to Adam. Can Lando charge up to the top 10 and end up bringing home a couple of points tomorrow, or will he have a battle on hand with a Haas and an Alpine and Mick and Esteban?
I think there's definitely going to be a battle, which is unfortunate because McLaren looked so strong in Barcelona, and then they hit this brake problem in Bahrain testing, and they haven't quite got on top of it yet as well. Ricciardo's lost seat time. That's why he's so far down. Lando's making the best of a bad situation. McLaren fully admitting they're not expecting to be up there until just after Australia, which is shocking because it's 3 races. Lando was saying in the press conference as well and to Sky that it doesn't matter if you make mistakes in the first few races. It's such a long season. Really? How did Hamilton and Verstappen start last year? Wheel to wheel. How did it end? With them wheel to wheel. Every race is going to be crucial, more so now because it's so long. And because you have less of the power units, less of the energy stores as well, you've got to get on top of your equipment as soon as possible. McLaren haven't done that, and it's disappointing to see that they're so far back. The biggest surprise, as you say, they're going to be having a battle with Ocon and Magnussen. Magnussen is the best surprise I could ever ask for in Formula One. Haas so far up there. We're going to talk about that, I think, later on as well. But what a maneuver. And Hülkenberg even. Hülkenberg outqualified Ricciardo. And he outqualified Stroll. That's the bigger point as well. Hülkenberg, the third driver, fully outqualified his actual teammate who's in the car for the entire season. You wonder what Formula was coming to, but it was nice to see that the 2 pay drivers in Formula One, Lance Stroll and Nicholas Latifi, were 19th and 20th on the grid. These cars certainly showing what talent is all about.
Amen, Josh, and you nailed it on the head. This new car, wow, what a qualifying session we saw. And I think we'll see. And even Amber says, I think Mercedes will not win. Amber, you have to stick around for our pick a winner segment because when I announce my pick on the air, it may shock some people. But going back to the question, there will be Lando Norris will have a battle on his hands between Mick Schumacher and Esteban Ocon all race long. And Josh, you mentioned Kevin Magnussen. What I wonder what who is thinking right now. Kevin Magnussen is in his seat from last year, even though it's a new car. It's going to be interesting to see how everything develops. But I got to say, it's a new car. If what we saw in qualifying plays out for the race tomorrow, we could see an even better 2022 F1 season than what we saw last year.
Absolutely as well. And just to rebuttal from that, if poetry is where we're going as well, his reaction, well, all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty together again.
Love it, Josh.
Yeah, I've got to say, Nikita Mazepin might be punching the air right now, looking how well Haas did today. We talked about last season how much they were struggling, obviously, and of course, I think one of the reasons for that was because they took all of their development and energy that they'd be using, resources that they'd be using for that, and put it into the 2022 car, knowing that we were going to see a major regulation change coming into this season. I think you're seeing that pay off for them. So let's talk a little bit more about the American Formula One team here. Obviously, big progress in the offseason. Both cars out of Q1, no problem. You got to really think back to when the last time that happened was. Certainly wasn't last year with how slow they were. And get this, faster than the Mercedes in Q1 and even split the Red Bulls in Q2. Now, Mick Schumacher didn't make it out of Q2, like we said, but Kevin Magnussen did. He did have some hydraulic issues that they had to take a look at, but they got those fixed, got him back on track, and Q3 gave Kevin Magnussen and his Haas a 7th place starting spot. Feels like it's 2016 or 2018 all over again with how strong Haas seemed to be, at least to start this season off. So, Adam and Jessica, can Haas put this pace together over a full race tomorrow and get one or maybe even both of their cars into the points?
I'm going to go out on a limb. I say Haas F1 has both of their cars in the points. Yeah, you heard that right. And what we saw from Kevin Magnussen, wowee. If he's like that now, could he stay like that all season long? We'll just have to wait and see. And you're mentioning Mick Schumacher. I don't think Haas F1 this year is going to be a backmarker team. And we have a comment from the chat room. Your favorite in INDYCAR? Well, I'll get if I had to choose right now, qualifying is going on right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how everything develops with Haas F1. But if they can have this speed all season long, could we see him steal a win somewhere down the line? It could happen. What a start for Haas F1 after everything that's developed with that team since during the off season.
I think yes, they were very consistent all this weekend, and that gives to Mick Schumacher and Kevin Magnussen confidence for this Sunday. It's also something for which they have worked very hard all the seasons with Romain Grosjean before with these drivers, and scoring points will be a huge step for Haas for all this work over the years. So I think they can have some points here in Bahrain.
Yeah, Haas certainly off to a much stronger start than we've seen from that team in quite some time. And I think with everything that they've been through, it's hard not to be happy for Kevin Magnussen and Mick Schumacher with the pace that they showed today. It's just so much as get out of Q1. Last year was a victory for them. Now to see them flirting with Q3 and Kevin Magnussen all the way up in 7th. Hopefully there's some great things ahead for that team as we continue the season on. Now, 2 drivers that didn't make it out of Q1 were Daniel Ricciardo of McLaren and AlphaTauri's Yuki Tsunoda. The 2 Aston Martins of Hülkenberg and Stroll didn't make it either, and Nicholas Latifi in the Williams rounds off the grid in P20. So, Jessica, Joshua, out of the drivers that were eliminated in Q1, which driver should be more nervous about not advancing in the tone that might set for not just this race weekend, but the season going forward?
Yes, and I think it definitely is Daniel Ricciardo. The qualifying for McLaren was very worrying. He could improve his lap at the end of Q1, and he has drivers who are very complicated, like Yuki Tsunoda, the Williams, for example. It will be a better race for the Australian, and we know, let's remember that physically he's not 100% because he just got out of the COVID-19 and he feels very tired. We saw Daniel in the end of the qualifying. He saw very, very tired, and we know it's for the COVID-19. So it's very difficult Sunday for McLaren.
As I mentioned earlier on, I think Lance Stroll needs to be the biggest worry. Of course, he's not going to go anywhere because his dad owns the team. So he is completely stuck in at Aston Martin. But in terms of the fact of how the team treat him, going forward. And for a personal level, this is a big wake-up call. He's been beaten in a qualifying session by a driver who's had 3 hours in the car. That's it. And it's quite unbelievable. I can't work it out. But Hulkenberg as well, a super sub. He's out-qualified Lance Stroll. If Vettel can out-qualify Stroll more times this year as well, I think Aston Martin might just start to look and see what they can do to improve their star driver. Now, he is a great driver, Lance Stroll, but he has been lacking ever since he got comfortable at his seat in Aston Martin.
Yeah, Josh, it reminds me of 2017 in Hungary when Paul di Resta was called on to the Williams team to replace Felipe Massa, who'd fallen ill that weekend. And di Resta picked up the car right away with, very minimal time to prepare and wasn't last on the grid. I think that's a victory in and of itself. And similarly here for Hulkenberg to be on his couch last week, expecting that that's where he was going to be watching the race from. And all of a sudden, Sebastian Vettel falls ill, and it's time for Hulkenberg to come back and be that super sub that he was in 2020 and get back in the car to not only perform as well as he did, but out-qualify his teammate. I think in that case, it has to be a little bit of both. We have to praise Nico Hulkenberg's ability to jump in the car and do that well. But Lance Stroll certainly has to be concerned that a driver that has done, 3 races in the last 2 seasons of Formula One and hasn't been in this car at all hardly to come in and be out-qualified by that driver, that's certainly not a great look. So Stroll's going to have to do a little bit of work to prepare as the rest of the season goes on.
Yep. And for those of you who don't know, Josh is going to be a very, very busy man this weekend since he has a lot of races to cover. So Josh, I'm going to give you a shot for pick a winner for F1, MotoGP, INDYCAR, and NASCAR, and then we'll let you go to get some sleep. And if you haven't done it already, be sure to subscribe to Josh's YouTube channel. He's got a lot of racing to cover tomorrow, all day, all night long, all day long. So you want a good YouTube channel to subscribe to? Go check out Josh's. He and his sister and his dad do a very, very good job with all the watch-alongs on there. So, Josh, I'll give the floor to you. First up, F1. Who are you going with?
Adam, you're far too kind. You're absolutely far too kind. And it's the first super weekend where everything is on at the same time, which means I'm up from 1 a.m. until about 9 p.m. each day with very little sleep. So I'm surprised I'm still running. It's the first time we've done this since COVID started because, of course, everything was in the traditional European season. So for me, it was a normal day of working. Now I'm feeling what it's like to be one of my Australian fans or even what our American viewers here as well. It's getting to me a little bit, but we'll be okay. If I make a mistake in the commentaries, you know why. Tomorrow we've got Moto3, Moto2, MotoGP, Formula 3, Formula 2, Formula 1, and then if we get time, if the green flag hasn't fallen by the time we finish F1, we're literally going to end F1 and go straight over to INDYCAR because the green flag is 4:40 UK time, and the F1 race is scheduled to finish at 4:35. So we're literally going to go straight off here for F1 and go straight on here for INDYCAR. So it's a lot of back-to-backs tomorrow, and it's a lot of work to get everything done. Right, pick a winner. For Formula 1, it's got to be Charles Leclerc. I'm sorry, but I was saying it in preseason testing. I'm going to stick with my guns. Charles Leclerc will win tomorrow's race. That Ferrari just looks quick. I'm hoping I'm wrong about they've got a 1-lap pace. I want to see more of their race pace as well. In terms of what's going to happen in MotoGP, if we get a race, that is. You're going to talk about MotoGP next as well with the fantastic team as well we've got here. If that race does happen with that rain that's coming in as well, my pick would absolutely go for Fabio Quartararo. If he gets ahead into turn 1 tomorrow, ahead of the two alongside him of Martin as well, and Bagnaia, then it's done, even if it's wet or dry. In terms of what's going to happen in INDYCAR, I'm watching the qualifying right now. Rosenquist the fastest, 221 miles an hour at the moment, but Colton Herta's just coming up the order. On ovals, it's hard to go against Scott Dixon. He's had some great performance here in the past at Texas, so I'm going to go, it's going to be Dixon to take his first win of the season. In terms of NASCAR, I'm going to have to go safety net and pick Brad Keselowski, because every time I do, something happens and it's more fun that way, because I haven't had time to catch up on that, but I'm going to watch that probably when I'm sedated in A&E at the end of tomorrow evening on an IV drip, just to try and keep myself hydrated after this. But it's going to be fantastic, and I will hopefully be on the show tomorrow. If not, you'll know where I'll be.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun day of racing. Thank you so much for your time, Josh. We'll definitely let you go get some rest, because next up, we're talking MotoGP. We had a dramatic qualifying this morning for MotoGP. Fabio Quartararo, he is on the pole. First since Spain last year in Catalan, and completing the first row, Jorge Martin and Johan Zarco. So the Pramac Ducatis up front, and Bastianini, last week's race winner, he is in the second row with Brad Binder in fourth and Pecco Bagnaia in sixth. So overall, it is a stacked front two rows. Julia, starting with you, when it comes to the pole, Quartararo has it. Can he hold off those Ducatis and Binder in the KTM?
Well, I think he can hold the Ducatis and the KTM of Binder. Generally, mostly because, as he said, he's been asked if it's a Yamaha track. He said no. But he also had been asked if it's a Ducati's track. He also said no. And for now, it looks like that it's literally no one's track. So there's a big chance that he can hold off Ducatis, that we have Jorge Martin, Johan Zarco, and now Bastianini, Pecco Bagnaia, who's surprisingly not in the first row. And there's Binder, of course. He definitely can, but it's gonna be hard. It's not like Jorge and Johan's not gonna fight for him. Johan is still going for his first win in MotoGP. Jorge wants to just get another win. So I think he's gonna have a really, really hard time if the race is gonna take a place. And if the race is gonna be wet, well, this will be a very, very tough race for Fabio Quartararo.
And this is a unpredictable circuit for everyone. And the last week, the last race, there was a no good performance from Yamaha, and now they are on the pole. Ducati comes very fast with Pramac, but it will be very tough race for Fabio Quartararo, who should be the fastest from the start of the race. So I think the prediction of the weather, everything is going to be so important for tomorrow. And I think if Fabio knows very well his bike, he can hold on Fabio, Jorge Martin, and Johan Zarco.
Now, one thing y'all mentioned is weather, and it could be raining, hard rain. And if that happens, Fabio Quartararo is on the pole, and like Josh mentioned, if this race does happen, I think we could see him check out and win for the first time in 2022, which, he has some good competition on the front row. Jorge Martin and Brad Binder. But I think right now it's Quartararo's race to lose. And it's the first time that we've been here in Indonesia since 1997. That's a long time. And also, it's a brand new track. So, but I think it's Quartararo's race to lose, and I think he'll get the job done.
Quartararo has to be a favorite when it comes to the rain. This track, we've been seeing a lot of drivers lacking that grip. He just seemed at qualifying to really step it up. And of course, the drama, it started early in Q1 seeing Marc Marquez going off twice. He failed to get out of Q1, and so did Mir, the 2020 MotoGP champion. Neither one of them in the top 10. They're towards the back. And here's the thing, too. There are no Hondas in Q2 and also no Hondas in the top 12. Julia, I have to ask you, is this a concern for Honda with those new bikes being that far back, or is it still too early in the season?
Well, maybe definitely a little. It's becoming a little concern. They should maybe not to worry too much, but start to think about it, because the thing that the Mark who crashed twice is still the fastest Honda. He's still before Paul, who was doing good on that track, and now something really bad happened before Taka and before his brother Alex. So this is quite surprising, and also not having Honda in any Honda, especially Mark in Q2, is also very concerning and surprising. But as he said, he was really pushing, because he knew that if he's in Q1, he's got to push, and we saw him really pushing hard, and that's why he crashed. But yeah, how to say it? The thing is that the problem with Honda now, they have a quite a good bike, but now the only person who likes the front of the new Honda bike is Paul. And he's still, I don't know what really happened to him in qualifying. He's been saying that he likes the front, and then he is even behind Mark, who just hates the front generally, because both Mark, Alex, and Taka, they all been complaining about the front of the bike, that they just can't feel it. So this may be a thing to repair for Honda, because they cannot have only one rider doing good again, or neither of the riders, because we know that the situation with Paul is concerning. It's complicated. It looks like he's good, but then he's not even in Q2, and he's behind Mark, who has problems with this bike because it's a totally different bike than he ever ridden on. So I think they should start to look for a new solution to help Mark, Alex, Taka, and even Paul, because that's what happened today. Even if it's a new circuit, it's unpredictable. Not everyone did good. Also, Joan did really bad. They should be concerned and start to at least look for a new solution, because it's early in the season. But every race is important, especially for Mike, who really wants to be. I feel like he really wants to be a world champion this year. So they should find a solution as soon as they can.
And Marquez, 3 crashes were crucial. One in the free practice and 2 in the qualifying. And especially the last 2 qualifying, also in Mandalika, is a very new circuit with little data. So just as Yamaha did not do well in Qatar and has now managed to recover, the same can happen with Honda. They have a pressure to compete with Yamaha, but has too hard, pushed too hard, and then he crashed. But it's difficult, this circuit, for everyone, but Honda have more serious problems than the other teams. So we can expect everything tomorrow in Mandalika.
Tomorrow, I think it's going to be something else where with these Hondas, it's going to be really interesting to see what Marc Marquez could do that far back. And then, of course, the rest of the field, especially if we get that weather. I think there's going to be a lot of eyes, similar to if we don't get the rain, but it starts to show up, it could really turn things around. I think of Austria last year when Brad Binder decided late in the race, I'm going to stay out for the last 3 or 4 laps on dry tires and managed to hold off for the win. Now, as I had mentioned earlier, and you as well, first time in this brand new track, 17 corners. Times were very competitive throughout the entire weekend, and overall, this field looks really good. But you got to look at the Ducati though. The Ducati's the straight line speed. 6 out of the top 10 stars are on Ducati bikes. You have 2 KTMs, 1 Yamaha, and a Aprilia making up the top 10. So, Adam, starting with you, can the tire selection be a strategy, especially for those non-Ducati teams?
Oh, absolutely. And even if it doesn't rain, I think tire selection is going to be very, very key. Because you mentioned, Joe, 6 of the top 10 riders are on Ducatis, and I think you're going to have to be Fabio Quartararo tomorrow. But I think the tire strategy is definitely going to be a key. But it's going to be hard to get around Fabio, especially if it does rain, because everyone will be on rain tires. So it could level out the playing field, but I think the non-Ducati riders are going to have to find a way to get around Fabio Quartararo for the victory in Indonesia.
Yes, so I think the tire strategy may be crucial for this race. Of course, it's very crucial when there's a wet race. We have flag to flag. So definitely had to say it. Especially for Honda, it may be important because they've been complaining on the tires today so badly. Because they've been doing good during testing, but now when the track was resurfaced and the tires, the Michelin brought different tires than the last times, well, they've been complaining quite a lot, especially Paul Espargaro. But yeah, it may be crucial, as you mentioned, Brand Binder, which he made the decision of his life during Austria Grand Prix. And I need to say, quite a fun fact that I was there in Austria. I was on the grandstand, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I was completely shocked seeing him just going around when the rest came into the pit lane. Yeah, tires are always very important, especially that this track is quite dirty still, even if it was resurfaced. Of course, there's going to be flag to flag. Well, Fabio is not very good in the rain. So then I think if we're going to have flag to flag or wet race, Fabio is going to just fall behind as always. But the wet race creates opportunities for the other riders, like especially Binder and especially Marc Marquez, who starts 14th, but we cannot account him of any good result because it's Marc Marquez. But yeah, definitely the tires will make a difference. I think that they even make a difference for the Ducati, even if they have a straight line speed. As we know, the tires are also a big part of racing generally. So, like they chose the bad tires for the San Marino for the GP when Pecco lost his championship. So they also should be careful, I think, with choosing the tires. And I see the question from Amber: what is Bastianini's chances of winning again? And he's in a good position of starting. I think he's starting 5th. So there are big chances of him winning again, especially that it's MotoGP. It's completely unpredictable. We can have Fabio leading the whole race. We can have Jorge or Joan starting to lead, and then we maybe have Bastianini just going through them all and starting winning the race. So there are great chances that he can also win because, as we said, this is the totally new track. We can't really predict anything for at least 19% or something like this.
When it comes to predicting this race, I think it's going to be really crazy, really hard. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. 27 laps, but as we've all mentioned earlier, weather, rain is in the forecast. It could be some heavy rains as well. And then the grip, as we've been talking about, it's just been such a dirty track. Nobody seems to be that happy. So, Adam, if we get the rain, how will the riders respond? And which riders might be hoping for just that rain besides Fabio Quartararo, especially the ones towards the back? We all know Marc Marquez would love to see rain. What other drivers do you think could benefit from the rain?
I think Jorge Martin could do well tomorrow. You could see Brad Binder in the KTM. But you mentioned Fabio Quartararo, also Marc Marquez. Like you said, Julia, never ever count out Marc Marquez. It does not matter where he starts. He always finds a way to get to the front. But I'll go with Jorge Martin and Brad Binder on the KTM to give Fabio Quartararo find a way to push him to a victory, but don't count out Marc Marquez. Like you said, Julia, it's Marc Marquez. He always finds a way to get to the front. It does not matter what the conditions are. He's always lurking when you least expect it.
Yes, and we have, I think, is Quartararo may be the most benefited and Marc Marquez from the rain. Let's hope we don't see a flat to flag or something like that. But it's unpredictable circuit, it's unpredictable weather. We saw the prediction is more than 70% of rain for tomorrow. So I think the benefit is Quartararo. Let's see what happens if don't crash. So this is unpredictable, but I think is Fabio Quartararo made the most benefit with the rain.
When it comes to the race, it's going to be a lot of fun. I see comment from Amber. Hard seeing Julia and Jessica on the pro, and of course for MotoGP. Highly recommend follow both Julia and Jessica, especially Jessica, Paddock Insight as well. And we're going to be back, of course, tomorrow with Grid Live Wrap-Up. But before we go to IndyCars, Adam, we have another pick a winner to do.
Yep, we sure do, Joe. And Julia, it's time for you to make your picks for Formula One and MotoGP. So I'll start with you. Who wins the season opening Formula One?
Well, I get to thank
Bahrain Grand Prix.
Yeah, I get to thank Amber for her comment because I'm really happy to see us women going around and showing ourselves in motorsport by coming back to pick a winner. Well, I need to say I'm quite confused because the whole top 5 can win this race. Because just like with Mark, I'm never trying to outcount Lewis Hamilton. But for this race, and maybe it's a little of my dream, I'm going to go with Charles Leclerc.
All right. I like your pick, Julia. And now we switch over from 4 wheels onto 2 wheels. So who wins the MotoGP race in Indonesia?
Yeah, MotoGP is, as always, is completely unpredictable. As we said, we chose our winners 2 weeks ago, and we were choosing Jorge Martin and Marc Marquez, and we knew how it went. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go for Pecco Bagnaia. He's starting 6th, but this is a Ducati, and this is Pecco Bagnaia, and I honestly think that he can do it. Maybe just starting 6th, maybe he's gonna take some pressure off his shoulders. Maybe he's gonna be more comfortable there in trying to fight, because for a long time he's been starting in the front row, he's been leading. Maybe it's gonna be a little different for him. And this is a Ducati, a factory Ducati. They have quite a good bike, even if now in front we have the older Ducati. So I think I'm gonna try something new and not to go with the first row. I'm gonna go with Pecco Bagnaia.
Good choice, Julia. Good choice. I like it.
Solid picks, and Julia, thank you so much for your time on the program. We'll definitely keep in touch, and we'll see you next time for MotoGP. But now it's time for a return of IndyCar at Texas Motor Speedway.
That's right, Joe. We've got qualifying actually going on right now for the NTT IndyCar Series at Texas Motor Speedway. The XPEL 375 is Sunday, tomorrow, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, a daytime race in Texas. And rumors are circulating it may be the final IndyCar race at Texas Motor Speedway. We all know since the repave and reconfiguration, the racing really hasn't been the same. The traction compound, of course, responds differently to the Indy cars as compared to what it's intended to do with the NASCAR stock cars. Now, one driver that has probably been looking forward to Texas is Scott McLaughlin. McLaughlin won the season opener in St. Pete and is looking to make it 2 in a row. Last year, he finished an impressive 2nd and 8th in the Texas doubleheader. The last time a driver won the first 2 races of the IndyCar season was Scott Dixon in 2020, when Dixon won 3 in a row on his way to his 6th career championship. So Adam and Joe, does Scott McLaughlin have a strong chance at winning 2 in a row tomorrow, despite his lack of experience on ovals compared to a lot of the rest of the field?
Yeah, I think so. And last time we were here, it was a Texas doubleheader, and I believe it was the first race Scott McLaughlin scored a top 5 finish. So even though qualifying is going on as we all speak, I think Scott McLaughlin has a good shot of going back to back in the Lone Star State of Texas. But it's a long race. Anything can happen. I gotta say, sure, why not? And how cool would it be to see a Kiwi not named Scott Dixon win the first 2 races of this year's IndyCar season?
May not be Scott Dixon, might be Scott McLaughlin. Both of them, the first name Scott. If you could only pick a Scott and pick a winner, you have a pretty good shot of winning, but of course, it's full name. When it comes to Scott McLaughlin, though, if I had to put a percentage on winning this race, I've got to put it around 50%, just because I know Penske, they're going to have a fast car there. The big thing is everyone else is looking really fast as well. I just don't see him going out there and dominating it. If anything, it's going to be similar to last year, a fast car up towards the front, but the competition is looking really tight overall, and I think he has to position himself, good pit strategy, fast pit stops, no mistakes, then I could see him winning the race.
Yeah, McLaughlin leads the points, but it's Alex Palou, the 2021 champion, who's right behind him. Will Powers in 3rd right now, one of his best starts of the season in a while. We have Kobe come in from the chat here. There's a lot of racing going on. I've got the truck race on right now, trying to monitor everything. I guess qualifying is wrapped up. So Felix Rosenquist is on the pole, and Scott McLaughlin is starting 2nd. So a very impressive qualifying run for Scott McLaughlin there. Maybe only strengthens his case. I think I'd have to agree with both of you guys. I think he certainly does have a shot. If he can finish 2nd on what's basically his first ever time on a super speedway and oval race last year, he certainly has a shot to go one better this season. Well, talked about power here. The Andretti drivers, Colton Herta and Roman Grosjean, have started off very strongly this season as well. Roman and Jimmy are both making their first start here at Texas. I think Grosjean actually has one oval start at Gateway last year. But for Jimmy Johnson, this is his oval debut. And Jimmy, of course, raced stock cars on ovals before and had just a little bit of success in NASCAR on that side of things. But this is his first time in an oval in an IndyCar here with Chip Ganassi Racing. So a very simple question to each of you guys, Joe and Adam. Who finishes ahead of the other tomorrow? Is it Roman or is it Jimmy?
I'm going to go with Roman. Yes, Jimmy has driven there in a stock car, has the experience of Texas Motor Speedway. But in the IndyCar, I feel he'll be comfortable in it. It's a matter of getting towards the front where Roman Grosjean and Reddy, they're looking fast. I see Roman going towards the front and finishing towards the front because I feel like whereas the open wheel experience, he has to learn the oval. Yes, he had Gateway, smaller, shorter, slower oval. It's going to be really tight, but I anticipate Roman's going to finish ahead of Jimmy Johnson.
All right, Joe, I see where you're going, and I'll go the other way. I'm going to say Jimmy Johnson. Yes, he does have experience here in a stock car in the past, winning drove for Hendrick Motorsports, and it's his first time on an oval. But I think Jimmy Johnson will have a top 15 finish tomorrow at Texas Motor Speedway. I think Roman Grosjean will have a top 20 finish in the Lone Star State. It's going to be interesting to see how both of those drivers compete at this 1.5-mile oval. So I'm going with Jimmy Johnson to finish ahead Roman Grosjean.
Well, I would love to see Jimmy have a strong run as much as anybody. I think that would be certainly great for him and his fans. But I have a feeling that Grosjean's open wheel single seater experience is going to benefit him more than Jimmy Johnson's oval experience because the IndyCar does drive so differently to what he's used to in a stock car. I think it's going to take him an oval race or two to get up to speed. I think he certainly has a stronger shot here than he would have on the majority of the road courses. I think even in his NASCAR career, we saw him. He did get a win at Sonoma, I think, at some point in his career. I think it was 2010, but certainly had a lot more success on the ovals than he did on the road courses. Not to say he couldn't drive the road courses. He's a 7-time Cup champion and certainly had his moments there. But I think the ovals more benefit his driving style. I think we will see him have a couple of strong runs this year now that he's doing the full schedule. But for this one, his very first one, I got to give the edge to Grosjean. I think he's going to finish ahead of Jimmy Johnson tomorrow. Now, since the repave in 2017, no driver has won at Texas starting outside the top 10. We just wrapped up qualifying as well. I don't know if we could get the full results here for us on the air, but with that in mind, Adam, do you think the trend continues, or do we see a change this year? Does somebody work their way through the field, whether it be strategy or just raw pace, drive up there and score the win from outside the top 10?
Well, I've got the qualification results right here, and outside the top 10, you have a lot of really good name drivers. Alexander Rossi starts 12th. Roman Grosjean actually qualified ahead of Jimmy Johnson in 13th. Simon Pageant goes 15th. Connor Daly is 16th. Colin Miley is 20th. Ed Carpenter is 21st. Dalton Kellett is 22nd. So a lot of the top names are starting in the top 10. So I think we will see someone from the top 10 win tomorrow at Texas Motor Speedway. And let our viewers know, however, and you see the qualifying results here on screen. Felix Rosenquist is on the pole. Scott McLaughlin starts second. Takuma Sato third. Will Power fourth. Scott Dixon fifth. Elliot Castaneda sixth. Joseph Newgarden seventh. Rinus VK eighth. Colton Herta ninth. And Power Award rounds out your top 10 for the XL 375. So I think someone in the top 10, like I mentioned, will win. So I don't think we'll see a driver outside the top 10 win tomorrow at Texas Motor Speedway.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you, Adam. It's gonna be a driver in the top 10. I just don't see any drivers outside the top 10. Taking a look at those drivers that are outside the top 10, Palou, Rossi, Grosjean, Ericsson, Pagano, Daly, Di Francesco, Johnson, Malukas, Elliott, Carpenter, Dalton Kellett, Kyle Kirkwood, Jack Harvey, Christian Lundgaard, J.R. Hildebrandt, and Graham Rahal, disappointing 27th. That's not going to be a fun day for him tomorrow. With the way this track is, especially with turns 1 and 2, doesn't seem like there's really a whole lot of room in passing. Then you have the traction compound that's still there. I just feel like you're going to have to be in the top 10. Unless you have something that occurs, whether you have like a big crash, something unpredictable that occurs, I don't see you getting towards the front. It's a quick race, 375 kilometers. This is just going to go really quickly, and I just think this race, it's almost pretty much if you're outside the top 10, you're just, okay, how do we get as much position as we can and try to score as many points as we can, but let's just sort of write off a podium unless it comes to us.
I'm with you guys. I think since the reconfiguration, it's been a lot more difficult to pass, especially what you see in turns 1 and 2. You really have to get a run on somebody going on to one of the two straightaways, and it has to be a good run so that you can complete the pass, since it's really just a one-groove racetrack based on what we've seen in recent years. So we'll see. IndyCar's been racing at Texas since 1997 as the Indy Racing League, and hopefully we get a good race tomorrow in what could be their final race. Of course, we don't know for sure yet. But surprisingly, I think most people would tell you this is not the most unpredictable race that we have on this motorsports weekend.
Yeah, it's definitely not the most unpredictable race of this motorsports weekend. I think that has to easily go towards the NASCAR Cup Series at Atlanta Motor Speedway. They are entering the great unknown in this mini super speedway type race, which is expected for Atlanta Motor Speedway. And this is just something where Friday's practice, it was rained out, so no qualifying. They went back to the metric to determine the starting grid lineup. Chase Briscoe, he's on the pole. Today, that's where we saw some flat-out pack racing with two wide mainly. They were pressing it when it came into that third lane. Man, we saw drivers, especially if they were not fully speed, they just go to that third lane, let the pack go by. And the lifting wasn't for entering the corner. That was more like what you see at Daytona and Talladega, lifting so you didn't just go right up to the bumper and potentially spin out the car ahead of you. Ben, do we anticipate this kind of pack racing to last all 500 miles tomorrow?
Well, it's too early to tell, I think, but I do have a truck race on in my background right now, and as I speak here, the top 10 trucks are separated by less than 7/10 of a second. The top 20 trucks are separated by less than 2 seconds. So that tells you now, as we're in the middle of a green flag run here, it is certainly a pack race right now. I just saw Derek Kraus. Looks like he's fallen off the pace here. He was up in the top 3 just a lap or two ago. So just one little mistake or something going wrong there has him all the way to the back of the pack. Everybody is so tight together. You know, I don't know if we're going to see it for all 500 miles. I think if we get a long green flag run, maybe things might start to spread out a little bit. But, you know, obviously the Cup cars are driving differently than the trucks are. But if a truck race now is any indication, if what we saw in Cup practice a few hours ago was any indication, it's going to be a pack race for at least part of it. And you got to think there's going to be a late race caution that'll bunch everybody back up again. And it's going to be interesting. You know, I would have thought that if you wanted to make Atlanta like a super speedway kind of track, you know, maybe if you keep it at the 1.5 miles, you would actually lengthen it, the width in the corners rather. You'd make the track a little bit wider to allow for some 3, maybe even 4 wide racing. We're not really seeing that. It looks like it's pack racing, but it's only 2x2. So I don't know how much passing there's going to be in the pack like that compared to what we see at Daytona, Talladega. So as we said on last week's show, kind of previewing everything, I think we're just going to have to wait and see, and we'll give a definitive answer tomorrow on the wrap-up show.
I completely agree with you, Ben. You know, it's a reconfigured track, and it's going to be interesting to see how everything develops. I think after at least the second stage, we'll know if it's going to be a pack race or not. And like you said, Joe, we are going into the great unknown here now at Atlanta Motor Speedway. So far we've seen intense racing all season long. And I think we see that same thing tomorrow down in the Peach State of Georgia. I hope all you fans out there that are watching get your favorite foods, your favorite snacks, and your favorite beverages. Because if it's going to be like what we've seen so far in this NASCAR Cup Series season, we are in for an exciting race down in Atlanta.
Atlanta looks like it's going to be an exciting race. And, of course, this is a repave. So the track is going to be essentially where we see the disadvantage of you only have one groove. With this banking, this package, the super speedway package, we're seeing already 2 grooves. That third groove, maybe it will come in. I anticipate that third groove towards the end of the race if some drivers start becoming brave enough to go on that groove to try to get it. Because the big thing when it comes to this race, especially towards the end, if we get tire wear and seeing how those tires are going to wear out, handling I think is going to be an issue. And that's where you're going to see that second groove, maybe that third groove start to come in. And I think the big thing, as the tires wear, potential for contact and all that goes up. So it's going to be a really interesting race to try to just run hard, take care of your tires, but then at the same time, make sure you're aware of your situation where you could be up towards the front, but if there's any indication from the truck series, you could fall back really quickly. And towards the front, we are seeing some drivers that they're not exactly the most common names outside Daytona and Talladega. Justin Haley, Ty Dillon, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., they were strong at Daytona. They were up towards the front in practice. Ben, Do you believe, just like in the restrictor plates, super speedway tracks, all the teams are coming into this race with the equal belief that they have a chance of winning like they do in the super speedways?
I do, for the most part. I think teams that you don't normally see running up front, maybe specifically at Atlanta, being a typical mile and a half in the past, I think they're going to have an opportunity to get up to the front and mix it up a little bit on Sunday. So I guess from that perspective, if you're a fan of the underdog, if you're a fan of teams that usually are fighting for somewhere between 15th and 25th on Sunday, this might be an opportunity for a different name to get up there, have a strong run, and maybe go out and steal a win. I'm sure the Kaulig cars are going to be very strong. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., we saw him have a good run at Daytona and have a shot to win it. He's won on super speedways before. So even though the racing I don't think is going to be entirely like what we see at Daytona Talladega, I think you could have a surprise winner on Sunday. And I think there's certainly a case to be made for Haley, Dillon, Stenhouse, or anybody else that as you see the starting lineup go through here. I think pretty much all those guys, if they have the pace to hang with the main pack, they'll be in the mix and might have a shot to pull it off.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with what you said, Ben. I think we, normally when we get to Daytona and Talladega, we normally see a surprise winner. Could we see a surprise winner tomorrow in Atlanta? Absolutely. Everybody's going to this track with a fresh sheet of paper. Nobody has any indication of what's going to happen. We only had one practice so far. So with that being said, I think we will see a surprise winner tomorrow at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Overall, it's going to be very, very intense all race long. So hope everyone enjoys all the action tomorrow at Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Atlanta Motor Speedway. This is the first time I could recall where I feel like Atlanta Motor Speedway, every single driver has a good shot at winning. Generally, before it's been, okay, you got 10 drivers that should be towards the front all weekend long. Then you have about another 10 that if they have a good day, they could be up front. And then the other half of the field trying to get top 10s and just a good finish. But this time, we have 37 drivers. All 37 drivers, I feel, have an equal shot at winning. Now, the last time with this track here at Atlanta, when they announced about the repave, we know it's going to be very controversial, where they just repaved it like the old reconfigurations. Drivers didn't want it changed. Then they changed it, and maybe critical eyes will be watching this one because we know the criticism of how the track was designed without the driver's input. The new car, it has been developing good on-track production when it comes to great racing, side-by-side, and the parity we're seeing between the teams. So with this race, considering the great unknowns of how the track's going to handle, and with this new one, Adam, depending on the success of this race, should this race be should it be fairly judged on how successful the repave is? Or do we need to give this track a little bit more time, maybe after the second race, to really determine, was this repave a good idea?
I think we need to give it at least a little more time. Yeah, some drivers wanted it, and I think after maybe a couple of years, we'll see what it's really like. And like I mentioned, everyone has a blank sheet of paper. The only thing they have to go with right now is practice times. And if we gave it a lot more time to develop, I think things will be a lot better at Atlanta.
I would say give it more than one race, but we got 3 races this weekend. So, I think we are going to have a pretty good idea of what we're seeing from this new Atlanta. And we got 3 cars that drive, 2 cars and 1 truck, I guess I should say, that drive differently from each other. So we've got multiple different reference points. That's the word I'm looking for to look at here. So I think we are with that in mind, having a pretty good idea of what we're going to see going forward from this track. I think it is fair to judge it off of just one race weekend because we have some extended practice time. We have 3 different races, and I would caution NASCAR against a knee-jerk reaction either way here, because I think, maybe it is good to give a second set of race weekends to this track before we completely make a judgment in either way here. But we can't take this track and look and see, if the racing is absolutely spectacular and blows us all away across all 3 series this weekend. I think there's a call. I saw somebody on Twitter say today, if the racing is good, tear down every mile and a half, reconfigure it, and make the racing like this. And I think that would certainly be a knee-jerk reaction. That would be a mistake. I will say the racing that I'm seeing right now in the Truck Series, I think that was the racing that was the original goal of the 550 high downforce, low horsepower package that we've seen in Cup in the last 3 years. And obviously, we really didn't get that racing at mile and a half, even though we maybe saw a hint of it at times at testing. This is, I think, the kind of racing that they were expecting. So maybe I should have that shirt on off to my side here, ready to bring it out. If 8 out of 10 fans supposedly like what they're seeing, maybe the suits will like what they're seeing. The fans, I'm not so sure. I see Amber saying I suspect a big one with 14 cars. Based on the pack racing that I'm seeing in the trucks right now, I certainly don't think that's out of the question, especially if that wreck starts towards the front of the pack. So, I will give it more than just this weekend, but we do have 3 races this weekend. So I think it is a good reference point for us to at least start making the case either way.
I agree with you. We got 3 races, 3 different handling vehicles, different characteristics. I think there's going to be a good indicator about how well this has worked. And overall, I got to say, with watching practice, if this was just a repave, we're talking about a 1-groove racetrack, not a whole lot of action. So right now, it's starting to deliver when it comes to a repave. Looks a lot better. But you bring up a good point. Would other tracks want to do the same thing of, let's add more banking and create this kind of racing? We know NASCAR wants to have a good, exciting show for the fans. But the tracks, do we really want to have 3 tracks that all are very much the same, a bunch of racing the same? I think the answer the drivers will tell you is no. And when you look at SMI and the changes they've done to Texas Motor Speedway, Charlotte pretty much remains the same, and Atlanta. Have 3 tracks with 3 different unique characteristics. Let's not just have it become the mini super speedways championship. I think the fans will also like that too, because it just adds a little something different where maybe with this next gen car, maybe Texas will be a much better product this year. We'll have to wait and see for that. But right now, Atlanta Motor Speedway, I say let it build the time. Let's see how the racing develops over the years. But definitely don't just copy paste Atlanta all over the place.
I will say, Joe, if I could just come in real quickly here, I have a couple of friends in one of my group chats that are watching the truck race as well. One of them is comparing it to NASCAR heat plate racing. So I don't know if that's, I would have to think that's probably not a great seal of approval as we start here, but it is only the second stage from a truck race. So we'll have to see how the rest of the weekend plays out.
Yep. Now it's time for everybody's favorite game here at Grid Network. Pick a winner. And we have an updated leaderboard. Kobe's on top with 4. I'm with 3. Ben is second with 3rd. And a lot of them behind him with 1, including our own Joe Samaniego, Brandon Crossley. And if you want to get involved, use the hashtag Pick a Winner on social media. And our colleague Jessica has chosen for F1 Max Verstappen and MotoGP Fabio Quartararo. So those are 2 good, solid picks. So now I'll start with you, Joe. Who wins the season opening Grand Prix of Bahrain tomorrow?
Oh man, this race compared to other Formula One races is going to be really close. we're going first. It's been a long time since I've been going first, but I'm stuck in that log jam. So, of course, the benefit of going first, I got to decide between the two Ferraris. I think it's going to be one of those Ferraris at the front that's going to win the race. And at the end, my pick for the Formula One Bahrain Grand Prix will be Carlos Sainz winning his first career race.
Not a bad pick. I gotta tell you, I don't know. I think what we're seeing here between Leclerc and Verstappen could be a title fight that could resemble what we saw with Hamilton and Verstappen last year. So, I don't know how he's going to do it. I know Mercedes have been down on pace this year, but I am predicting some fireworks between Leclerc and Verstappen. And I think Lewis Hamilton finds a way around Sainz and Perez. I'm going to go with Lewis Hamilton, even though Mercedes don't seem to have the pace this weekend. If anybody can overcome that, it's Lewis. And I've got a feeling that if all of us avoid him, he'll find a way to win anyway. So I'll be that representative. I'll be the guinea pig. I'll say Mercedes find a way to break through despite their disadvantage. And I'll go with Hamilton. I see Kobe's got Leclerc covered, so I think maybe Adam will give us a Red Bull pick. I don't know. Let's see.
No, my dad's half my family is Italian, so I'm going with Ferrari. And I'm agreeing with Kobe and Josh. I'm saying Charles Leclerc, F1 victory, driving Ferrari. And I think Ferrari is back. And I think will be a contender for the Formula One World Championship and give a fight to both Mercedes and Red Bull. And now we switch over to INDYCAR at Texas Motor Speedway. So, Joe, I'll start with you again. Who wears the cowboy hat in victory lane tomorrow and takes the win in the Lone Star State of Texas?
I'm going to go with a driver I think a lot of people were not anticipating until qualifying today. And you got to remember, it wasn't too long ago, he was running towards the front and it looked like he could put a challenge to win the race. But at the end, he got in trouble, brought out a late caution. His day was done. I'm going with Felix Rosenqvist. He's on the pole. He has run well here before. If he puts together a perfect race with McLaren, that'll be the one McLaren you're going to see in victory lane this weekend. Felix Rosenqvist in the IndyCar.
I tweeted these back on whenever it was here, Wednesday, I guess the 16th. So I got to make sure I don't contradict myself here. I am going to revise one of them, but I won't revise my IndyCar pick. I'm going to go with Scott Dixon. I think experience is going to win out. And I think Dixon gets his first win of the season.
I'm going with a driver that starts alongside Felix Rosenqvist, and I think he does make it back-to-back victories. And Kobe and I agree with this pick too. I'm going Scott McLaughlin in the driving for Team Penske, and he does it again. And wears the cowboy hat in victory lane. Now we switch over from 4 wheels to 2 wheels as we go to Indonesia for round 2 of the MotoGP World Championship at a brand new circuit. So, Joe, I'll start with you. Who wins the Grand Prix of Indonesia at this brand new circuit?
When it comes to Indonesia, this brand new circuit, a lot is up in the air and who's going to win it. The big thing I feel is going to be a rider with experience, and I'm going to go with the teammate of Kobe's pick. I'm going to go with Zarco in the Ducati. Martin, he's going to be up front, but I feel it's overdue for Zarco to get that win.
Well, like I always say, I got to be honest with our viewers. MotoGP is not my strong suit. So when I made my picks on Wednesday, I went with Marc Marquez. And now I find out on the show today he's starting all the way down in 14th. So I think I'm going to take the opportunity to revise it. And I will go with Jessica's pick and say Fabio Quartararo wins from pole position.
I'm going with Jessica's pick too. I think Fabio Quartararo in the wet, if it does happen. And I think once the green lights Clemens, I think he'll be gone. See you. Goodbye. And he wins his first race of 2022. And now we return stateside as NASCAR heads to the great unknown at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. So, Joe, I'll start with you one last time. Who wins at Atlanta Motor Speedway tomorrow afternoon?
Tomorrow afternoon, that is such a wild card. I feel like it's just pretty much the same as the Super Speedway. So I'm going to go with a Ford again, since that's what we saw up towards the front. I'm going with Ryan Blaney getting the win at the new Atlanta Motor Speedway.
It's tough to predict, but I know Kyle Busch likes practice. We had some practice today. Maybe that's a good omen for him. I'm going to go with Kyle Busch.
All right. But I'm going with someone who is from the state of Georgia. No, I'm not going with Chase Elliott. I think he gets his first career win tomorrow. I'm going with Ross Chastain. Kobe and I must have the same brain or something here, since we've picked him a lot in Pick a Winner somehow. And I'm trailing him. So I'm going with Kobe, and I'm saying Ross Chastain for Trackhouse Racing gets his first career win in his home state of Georgia, and destroys a watermelon on the front stretch like he normally does every time he wins.
Ross Chastain, I think, will be a popular win. We encourage everyone to be sure to subscribe to the Grid Network. Tomorrow we're on the air for Grid Life Wrap-Up. Big thank you to calling the show, Mark, for investing in the Grid Network. You too can invest with our Patreon monthly donation or a one-time with Buy Me a Coffee. And visit public.com, $5 in referral and free stocks. You use the referral code GridNet. And of course, definitely social media. Follow us. Follow our website, gridranking.com, because the Grid Ranking is only a couple Sundays away, the first Sunday of April. And of course, Ben will have Grid Life Encore to wrap up the race weekend with the trucks, as well as Formula 2. And then Adam, of course, will be on Grid tonight on Wednesday. So thank everyone for watching today's program. We'll see you next time, and enjoy the races.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GridNet for your free $5 to invest. Start investing and networking on public.com.